Welcome back to CNN Newsroom. I'm Linda Kincaid. In the race for the White House, Republicans and Democrats are canvassing Wisconsin in a last-minute push for votes ahead of the state's primary on Tuesday. Democrats, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, are neck and neck in a state with 86 delegates up for grabs. They're also squabbling about New York, where they cannot agree on the terms and timing of a debate before the April 19th primary there. On the Republican side, 42 delegates are at stake, and every delegate matters for Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, with Trump more than halfway to the 12,037 delegates he needs to win the nomination. Wisconsin could be a game changer. Most polls there predict Cruz will beat Trump by double-digit margins. These are live pictures right now of a Trump event. Trump, of course, is trying to recover from what pundits are calling the worst week of his campaign. Let's go to our Solon Safadi now, who is live at a Ted Cruz rally in Wisconsin. Great to have you with us, Solon. Now, Cruz, of course, is well ahead in the polls for Wisconsin tomorrow. Is his camp pretty confident that he will secure that crucial state?
Well, they are, Linda. You know, the Cruz campaign officials say they feel good going into tomorrow's primary here in Wisconsin, and they've really campaigned on the ground here very hard. They have really rolled out their full strength of their contingent, including his wife, Heidi Cruz, a former rival, now surrogate Carly Fiorina, and also the state's governor, widely popular Governor Scott Walker, all who have just blanketed this state in the week leading up to tomorrow's primary. The Cruz campaign manager saying it's an all-hands-on-deck situation right now. They feel that they are going to win, but they want to make sure that they're taking nothing for granted and, of course, getting as many delegates as possible, which is very important going forward to Senator Cruz. And certainly as he's been campaigning through here in Wisconsin, he's been projecting a lot of confidence as well. Here's what he said earlier today in Madison.
Our campaign to date, as of yesterday, we have now beaten Donald Trump in 11 states across the country. I am very hopeful after Wisconsin votes tomorrow that will be 12 states across the country. I believe tomorrow night we're going to have a terrific victory here in Wisconsin.
So as you see, they're really not downplaying expectations at all for what he expects for tomorrow's outcome to be. You know, and getting a win here for Senator Cruz is so important for the math, collecting those delegates, making sure he's staying on pace towards that 1237. But also you can definitely argue that certainly is very important for the momentum. This race is now entering a phase where there's not going to be as many contests each week, longer stretches of time. So building that momentum, having him leave here the state with a firm grasp on that argument that he can be the alternative to Donald Trump. That's important for the Cruz campaign going forward. Linda?
And so looking at the Trump campaign, Donald Trump has had a pretty bad week with major gaffes on abortion and nuclear weapons. And now he's in the very unusual position of being the underdog going into tomorrow. Will those gaffes hurt him?
Well, we will see how this affects Donald Trump. You know, it will be interesting to see where this shakes out tomorrow night with the Wisconsin primary results, but also going forward. You know, they're entering the New York primary. That's, of course, Donald Trump's hometown. He is ahead in the polls there. So we'll see if this rough week, widely referred to as this rough week for Donald Trump, has any measurable real effect on his numbers going forward and his potential path towards the nomination. But it's interesting to see that we have seen both of his rivals on the Republican side really try to capitalize on the stumbles that he's had. We've seen Senator Cruz argue time and time again after each one of those stumbles last week that this reveals to a certain extent that Donald Trump doesn't have conservative principles, that he hasn't read in on the issues, and really making the argument, is this the person that you want to potentially be the nominee? Linda?
Okay, Solon Safadi joining us live from Wisconsin at a Ted Cruz rally. Thanks very much. And remember to join us here on CNN all day Tuesday for a complete coverage of the critical Wisconsin primaries. Well, now to Brazil, where only half of the tickets for the Rio Olympics have been sold, with just 4 months to go before the Games begin. Protests, political upheaval and fears of the Zika virus may be behind this slump, plus the economy is in dire straits. Brazil's sports minister told a local paper the government may even buy tickets and give them to schools. He added officials had to boost confidence in Rio's ability to safeguard travellers. Now, for more on Brazil's Olympic woes, CNN's Shasta Darlington joins us now from Rio. Shasta's ticket sales are sluggish, to say the very least. Talk to us about the solutions that Brazil is considering.
Well, Linda, obviously the idea of buying them up and giving them to schools wouldn't be a real solution. So it really comes down to that other point you mentioned. The organizers have to convince the international public that they can provide safe, secure, and fun games despite all of these problems they've been dealing with. You know, the first big challenge was convincing everyone that despite the violence and crime here in Rio, it would be safe. So they told everybody, we've got 85,000 police and troops on hand, more than double London, come on down. Then the Zika virus took them by surprise. Pregnant women have been told by various organizations to not even think about coming. So again, organizers have had their work cut out for them, trying to explain to the world that they are taking measures to reduce the mosquito population that spreads the virus, and that for those people who aren't pregnant women, it really isn't that big a deal. The political crisis is just the latest challenge. And unfortunately for the organizers, it's unfolding as they really get ready in these last couple of months. So these images of people protesting on the street are being broadcast around the world. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to disrupt the games, but it's a hard image to overcome, especially when they need to find that space in the global media to get their message out, Linda. And that's going to be the challenge for them, finding those spaces to convince people that it's a safe destination for visitors to the Rio Olympics.
And often, of course, Olympic cities do struggle to complete all the construction on schedule. We know that Brazil's funding has been slashed. What sort of impact is that having?
Well, the venues themselves are largely on schedule. They are being delivered. In some ways, the games are kind of on automatic pilot, but the cuts have affected certain areas. For example, volunteers, all of those people who would be greeting visitors around the city, showing them which way to go, perhaps taking ticket holders by the hand, taking them to their seats, this kind of thing. They've reduced the number of volunteers. Some of the venues that have seen the number of seats reduced. For example, the canoeing event at the Lagoon was going to have these collapsible stands. Well, they had to cancel that. They were just too expensive. There were also going to be some media tents at different locations. They've decided to really concentrate that into a few smaller number of locations. There are other areas, however, they say they're not going to skimp on security, no cuts. They say that is a priority, so don't expect there to be any scaling back there. Again, the venues, with a few notable exceptions, for example, the Velodrome, they've spent the money, they're almost completed. Those we shouldn't see affected. But one key area would be the subway that's needed to connect all of these different areas. It's a big city, they got to move people around, and it's not entirely clear that they're going to finish the subway line in time, which means they'll have to come up with a plan B, Linda.
All right, some big difficulties just ahead for them. Shasta Darlington live for us in Rio, thank you.